What are some of the causes of organizational conflict? We already discussed clashes over organizational issues and interpersonal disagreements. But of course, there are many others. One is bad information or poorly communicated information. This is all too common. Think of two people on completely different wavelengths, almost as if they're speaking different languages, speaking past one another, not really understanding what the other's saying, or just not communicating enough to get the message across, so that only a portion of the information is accurately transferred, while the rest just gets muddled. Think of the telephone game, where you repeat something from person to person down the line, and each time it gets a little bit different to the point where you get to the end and the message that is received is completely different from what the message was that was originally sent. We'll spend a lot more time on communication very soon, as it's one of the biggest sources of organizational conflict. Interdependent tasks and teams can be another source of conflict. If one person or group depends on another to do their job properly, and the other side is not upholding their end of the bargain, conflict is inevitable. It could center around something as simple as a shared piece of equipment, such as when a police officer doesn't clean up their patrol car at the end of their shift, or put back shared weapons, flashlights, or other supplies where they belong, or put them back with missing parts. Or it could involve a police or correctional officer who doesn't file a report on time or files it incorrectly, so the person that takes over the case, or has to deal with the inmate after them, doesn't know what's going on. This also goes for interdependence between agencies, such as in the story example of police-court conflict from the Stages of Conflict video, where police quotas increased the number of cases with flimsy evidence and resulted in scheduling conflicts at the court. Given the nature of the criminal justice system, with numerous organizations all operating independently but also interdependent on one another, you can see how easily a conflict can arise. Task forces are another source of potential conflict, where multiple agencies come together to address a common problem. This often leads to challenges with information sharing, where one agency holds back and protects their information or doesn't record it properly. Or there's just an overall lack of communication and transfer of crucial information that makes it difficult to work together. It's also a prime territory for conflict stemming from overlapping authority, where two agencies think they have the same jurisdiction and so they wrestle over who takes the lead or who makes crucial decisions. This happens within organizations too, where different units or departments seemingly have the same or similar tasks or responsibilities. And so there's conflict. They each think they're in charge of the same thing. Conflict could also stem from structural changes that are occurring in the organization, when responsibilities haven't been clearly defined or differentiated, or they may not have been filtered out across everybody yet to get everyone on the same page. For example, if a police agency is shifting over to adopt a community policing strategy with a flatter as opposed to a more traditional hierarchical structure, issues can arise over who's in charge of what, who does everyone report to, and so forth. Goal incompatibility is another conflict source. Organizations have different priorities that don't always sync up. Police are interested in arresting suspects and clearing cases. Prosecutors want cases with enough solid evidence to obtain conviction. And courts want to move cases along efficiently while upholding the due process rights of defendants. Let's take an example. Legislators, police officers, and prosecutors may want to get rid of policies allowing for time off a sentence for good behavior, but correctional managers want to keep these policies in place, as they value the crucial leverage it gives them to maintain a stable environment in their facilities. And they want to avoid potential safety concerns for inmates, guards, and other correctional workers that could result from eliminating them. Goal incompatibility is closely related to differentiation, where, because of different functions they serve, different parts of an organization develop different ideas of what organizational success is and how to achieve it. These conflicts can often be seen when contrasting different models of criminal justice, such as the due process versus crime control model, or the priorities of retribution against rehabilitation. Sticking with corrections, guards directly deal with maintaining safety and security, and therefore may tend to apply more catch-all approaches that could be overly restrictive in order to keep the peace at any particular moment, such as limiting their movements or what they're allowed to keep with them. But counselors want inmates to have access to programs and other privileges that tend to be more highly individualized, as they're aimed at helping their rehabilitation. Because they serve different functions, guards and counselors have different ideas of what success looks like in their facilities. Uncertainty and resource scarcity are also major drivers of conflict. When resources are scarce and it's uncertain where they're coming from for the next fiscal year, conflicts over how those resources are used are inevitable. Criminal justice agencies are constantly facing budget constraints and need to justify their spending decisions, knowing that at any time, something could happen that upends everything. So this kind of conflict is very common. And finally, conflicts arise due to how individuals are recognized and rewarded for their work. Performance measures, promotions, compensation, discipline, evaluation, all these elements of assessing how well individuals are performing and being recognized for their achievements are closely linked to the potential for conflict. For example, a probation officer believes in rehabilitation and tries to help their probationers with their personal problems on an individual basis with the goal of avoiding recidivism. But in the probation office, the reward structure is set up solely based around the number of probation violations that are identified and written up. This creates an inherent conflict. The officer may avoid writing up minor violations, instead opting to offer counsel and guidance, and in the process helps a lot of clients get their lives back on the right track. But none of these efforts are rewarded. Instead, another officer who writes up every little minor infraction is rewarded and even promoted. Mismatched reward systems like this often lead to high rates of job dissatisfaction and attrition, or turnover. Many good employees end up leaving. It's up to managers to try to recognize these conflicts, identify why they're occurring, and figure out ways to deal with them in a constructive way. And this is what we'll concentrate on next time: conflict management strategies. Are there other major causes of organizational conflict I didn't cover here? What kinds of challenges have you faced navigating through these different types of conflicts? Comment below and let me know. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching, see you next time, and have a good one.